Hello, and welcome back to something that's a little bit different and something that you guys may not have seen recently or may not have seen lately, but we are currently in the BRZ, and I'm going to be discussing something that I may have done just a little bit of an oof, and, well, we're going to talk about that, but we're also going to talk about a couple of other things because you guys have been asking a lot, actually, on the streams lately for a BRZ update, and that's what we're giving you guys today, but we're also going a little bit in detail on something that I may or may not have broken, so stay tuned for the rest of the video where we're going to talk about all of that. Alright, let's go and start this thing up and get on the road and actually talk about it. And by the way, the view outside my window is absolutely ridiculous, absolutely gorgeous right now. But let's go ahead and make sure there's nobody coming from the other direction and start driving and also start discussing the stuff that I broke. So, are we clear? I think so. Yep. Alright. That particular pull-off is really, like, weird and blind. So, let's not talk about that any longer. So, recent BRZ updates. So obviously you guys know that before the winter, I did the new wheel, tire, and suspension setup. So what that is two-way adjustable KW Club Sports. I also did a set of 17x9 Titan 7 wheels, and then I went with a set of 255 square. So basically 255 size tires front and back, because these cars really like to run a square tire size. Some people will run a staggered setup, and really all that gets you on these cars is a lot of understeer, and trust me, you really don't want that, because these cars, if you don't position the weight properly on the entry to a corner, you're already going to get a bunch of understeer anyway. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the footage from my last track day got corrupted, and that was when we were at Atlanta Motorsports Park, and so, like I said, unfortunately, that footage got corrupted and we can't really use it in this video, otherwise I would have overlaid some of it. But with that being said, the passenger side front only had, now granted, going into this wheel and tire setup, I knew there was going to be a little bit of testing and tuning that I had to do in terms of the ride height I wanted to run, which isn't all that crazy. I mean, you guys have seen pictures of the ride height. It's not super, super low. Now, oh, tunnel. Maybe that light will help you guys see me. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But we'll see when we actually go to look at the video. But basically, going back into the topic I was talking about earlier, basically, I knew that there was going to be some testing and some tuning that I had to do in terms of running this wheel and tire setup at this ride height. Now, remember, my ride height settings are the same on the driver's side front and passenger side front. My damping settings are the same, and in theory, everything is all supposed to be the same. So, you can imagine my surprise, when I was about halfway through the track day and realized that my passenger side fender liner had a little bit of a tiny touch on the top side, just a little tiny touch, and the driver's side fender liner had a gigantic hole in it, and I am not making that up. So basically what's happening is the passenger side front tire is ever so slightly touching the fender liner sometimes occasionally. The driver's side front tire has mega rub issues on heavy suspension compressions. Now, those of you that have been to or maybe have seen videos of Atlanta Motorsports Park, there's a section of the track, I believe it's somewhere between turns 10 and 12. I may or may not be getting that wrong. Somebody can correct me on that in the comments down below, but it's basically a gigantic suspension compression as you come into a downhill right-hander and then go back up an uphill. Now, what happens there is it's a really fun section of the track. The whole car compresses down, but the thing is, if you're not fully sorted on your suspension and your tire size, you will rub there. And unfortunately, my driver's side front was not too happy with me, and after only a few sessions in, my driver's side front fender liner had a gigantic hole in it. Now, I decided to, yep, there's my track pads. I haven't taken my my track day brake pads off yet. I'm running a Carbotech XP10 front and XP8 rear, and they squeak a little bit. They're definitely not the quietest brake pads in the book, although I'm okay with that because of the performance they give, but man, do you get some weird looks sometimes. there are people that'll be like, oh my God, you need new brakes. And I'm like, honestly, these things, like, dude, they still have like more than 50% life left in these pads, and they screech like nobody's business. But with that being said, this video is not about brakes. With that being said, these are the steps that I'm gonna take to hopefully address that issue. First thing is, I wanna go ahead and kind of take the coilovers out and make sure that there isn't anything screwed up with the preload. Now, because of the fact that the ride height is the same on both sides, the damping is the same on both sides, and the results are so different on the driver's side versus the passenger side, I wanna make sure that the preload isn't screwed up. Secondly, I wanna get the car corner balanced, and if adjusting the preload and getting it corner balanced doesn't fix the issue, I'm gonna raise the ride height. I don't want to raise the ride height, but that may be what I'll have to do, considering the fact that I really don't want to continue to tear up the tires that I'm running from, you know, them hitting the fender liner and not actually being used for grip. Because I am running, you know, a fairly sticky tire on this car. I'm running a Bridgestone RE71R, and the thing about the RE71Rs is that they're great, but I'd rather use them up by, you know, running them on the track than by rubbing them against my fender tunnel life again. But yeah, this section of the parkway is all about the tunnels, and tunnels are awesome, but they're not great for video, unless you're gonna do this. I normally don't do that. Because I feel like, I don't know, it's weird. I'm like, if I'm gonna do something in a tunnel, I'm gonna downshift and accelerate. I'm not gonna, like, you know, put the clutch in and rev it. It just seems so, like, not that it seems silly, because I get it, it's fun, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I'd rather just put it in a gear and accelerate. I'd rather put it in like a really low gear and take off than accelerate. As a matter of fact, I mean, we got another tunnel coming up. Why not? A couple of rev matches. It sounds good. I love doing the rev matches in the tunnel. The rev matches in the tunnel are the best. Absolutely the best. But, once again, this video is not about tunnel sounds. This video is not about rev matching. This video is not about any of those things. It's about sorting out that front end rub issue on the track. Now, I will say I am extremely grateful that the rear is completely fine. Like, the setup's first shakedown on the track, the rear, like, totally fine. The rear, great. Like, no issues with touch or rub or anything like that in the back. And I am super, super happy to report that. I was actually, it's weird, I was more worried about the rear than I was the front. And at the end of the day, it ended up being the front that had the issues. So it just goes to show that the part you might be a little bit more worried about might not be the part that has the issue. It might be the one that you're like, oh, I have a ton of clearance up here, I'm not worried about it. Well, when you go to actually fully cycle the suspension, you'll find out real quick what's the issue and what's not. And in my case, it happens to be the front. So with that all being said, though, I did a little bit of looking and a little bit of experimenting, and I'm pretty sure that with a preload adjustment, a corner balance, and maybe raising the ride height just a little bit, maybe like a half an inch, I should be a-okay. I should be fine. But that's the plan, and hopefully that will sort out all of the issues. Now, moving on to something a little bit different now. Now, a lot of you guys know that recently on the channel I played Descenders, and one of the reasons I played Descenders on the channel recently was A, because a lot of people had been asking me for it, but B, because I've actually started to kind of get into IRL, like real life mountain biking lately, and I actually started going to oh, we got another tunnel, hang on, lights, interior light. Again, I don't know how much difference that interior light makes. I hope it makes some sort of difference. I mean, I'm using a GoPro Hero 9 to record right now, and GoPros are historically not that great in the dark, but like the Hero 9 is supposed to be a little bit better. But either way, I recently started going to a jump park. So basically a bike park with downhill mountain bike trails, a jump park, a pump track, and just started kind of, doing the simple lines, doing the easy lines, And honestly, I'm having so much fun with it. And after a couple of posts on my Instagram about it, so many people said they wanted to see that on the channel that I was like, you know what? I've already got the GoPro to do it. I've already got the external mic to do it. I've already got the chest strap to do it. Why not freaking do it? So my plan really soon here is to get a, you know, nothing crazy, but like a nice hardtail mountain bike and, you know, something that isn't too big, because I wanted to kind of be a little bit of a mix between like a trail bike and a dirt jumper. And I don't necessarily want to start out by buying 2 bikes, because I feel like ideally I would buy, you know, I'd buy a trail bike and I'd buy a dirt jumper, but I kind of want to find myself somewhere in between both of those, something I could take to the downhill trails and something I could take to the jump park. But different video entirely, but I did want to kind of fill you guys in on that a little bit because I'm having an absolute blast with it. And I'll tell you, it's actually a really, really great companion for being into cars and being into like track days, being into race cars. And I'm also, little hint on future plans for the S2000, I'm heavily considering doing a full aero package on the S2000 this year, because obviously the stroker engine is done. And if you didn't see the reveal video of driving the stroker engine in the S2000 on a mountain road for the first time, I posted that towards the end of this past year, back at the end of 2020, and you should definitely go check that video out, because that video was a blast. Now, unfortunately, it was raining a lot when we filmed that video, but still, like, I mean, it was wheel spin city, but at the end of the day, I had a absolute blast filming that video. So with all that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy, and if you enjoyed what we talked about in this video, or if you have any suggestions or other impressions that you'd like to leave, make sure to leave those in the comment section down below. Hope you all enjoyed, hope you guys had a great time watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Talk to y'all later.